Hi guys, sorry if I'm being a little bit blunt, but I sort of have a time pressure because first of all, I have this limited amount of how much I can record in one session and I don't like to edit things, and also I'm working with the light, so the thing is I have a window right there and that's where I have my main light source, so you guys can see my pictures better, and yeah, and that is why I might be a little bit blunt and not go into too many details when I'm talking about all my finished pictures. But yeah, so we have Nouvelle Fantasy Special by with Coloring Heaven. I always want to say Haven because of Kate's Coloring Haven. So that sort of messed me up a little bit. But anyway, these images are done by Herb Leonard, and I did this Holly King, and I did this with a marker base, and I used I didn't use polychromos, I actually used luminance pencils for the shading, and I used a metallic marker on the border, and obviously some white gel pen. I had the Holly Jolly Christmas song by Michael Bublé during the time I was coloring this, and it was a little bit weird because it was in the middle of, I want to say March, but I think it was February, so yeah, wrong time to actually be listening to that song. Next up, we got Tattoo Darlings by Hannah Lynn, and I think I've done 4 pictures in this one. So I did this first one, I used a marker base, I used polychromos, I used polychromos to shade her, and I also used some white gel pen. This one I absolutely love how she turned out. Also marker base and some, I did the shading with polychromos. Next thing here, I did the exact same thing. Marker base, polychromos, and some white gel pen. And lastly, in this book, I did this body color with Happy Colorist J. I can't speak today. And I used a marker base. I used some, I think I used luminance. I think I both used luminance and polychromos in this one. I also used some fine liners on her tattoos, and I used, for the water, I used Paul Rubens glitter watercolor. So that's Tattoo Darling by Hannah Lynn, and my voice is starting to disappear. Here I have one that where I used a little bit of mixed everything. So let's see, I used luminance for her hair. I used polychromos to shade a lot of things. I used a marker base on, I think I used luminance for her skin. But I did use polychromos for the sky. I used marker base for her, for the base of her dress, And for the base of the wall and the table, I used the T technique on the different types of paper and on her map. And I used some white gel pen, and I used some Paul Rubens glitter watercolor on some of the details. Here I just use the T technique, but instead of doing it on, you know, stuff that's supposed to be aged paper, I did it for the steam in the background, and I used a marker, pro marker, for the leather accessories. This is still a work in progress. And then here I used this one I did for a tutorial you can find on my channel, and I used T. So yeah, so check that out if you're interested. Oh, my voice is going to get lost. This one is Inspirerande målande, which is my first coloring book ever. I bought it at a newsstand, and all of these pictures are done with what is it called? I think it is Staedtler's Tri Plus, and not the fine liner, just the markers. And they bleed through like crazy, but I don't care really, because I don't care so much about this book. And I sort of like to do this cover to cover thing. So these are just stock images that this company had bought and put into this coloring book. Oh, this was a picture that my sister gave me. So I don't know. I think I use this just to have as a bookmark. Yeah, and then I sort of started on this one. Next up we got Sacred Animals by Lydia Heth. And I did this one in Koh-i-Noor Mandaloose watercolor pencils. And this one was also in Koh-i-Noor Mandaloose watercolor pencils. And that's that for this book. Then we got Pop Manga Coloring Book by Camilla De Cario. And I used Kuretake watercolor pencil. No, what am I saying? No, I did not. I used the Gansai Tambi color watercolors. And the same on this page as well. I still need to finish this one, this double page spread. Yeah. Then we have Our Living Earth coloring book. Illustrations are by Myriad Colors. And I just did like a tiny bit here, and I didn't like how this paper took water. I got this at the time I was still, you know, I only had my Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz watercolor pencils, so of course I wanted to use water. And here I only did the sky partly. I think I did the sky with Faber-Castell classic colored pencils. And yeah, that's that. And here are some examples on how you can color things from the book. Next up we have Everything Will Be Alright, a fantasy coloring book by Heidi Black. I have a flip through of this coloring book if you guys want to see it on my channel. And I did this one with Faber-Castell classic colored pencils, and I used some big metallic markers on the stars. That's that. Next up we got coloring, I don't know what I'm saying anymore, my voice is lost forever. Traveling Around Scandinavia coloring book. I've done 2 pages in this one. I did this one of Kiruna Church, and I used Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz watercolor pencils, and I also used some white gel pens, and I also used some metallic big markers. Where's the second one? And here's the one with all the groceries. It's still in a work in progress. But yeah, I've done these with the Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz watercolor pencils and nothing else. I get so hungry. And yeah, and lastly in this batch of colored pages, I got two coloring books that I'm going to butcher. They are Carnet de Coloriage. Sorry, all French people. And I did these 2 pictures in this book. I used Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz on the background on this one, and then I did fine liners, and then I thought, okay, the other one is the same pictures but black, so but with a black background, so I used the same fine liners on this side as on that side, and for the roses I did use the Faber-Castell's classic colored pencils. And there's the book with the same name but a different theme, and I used Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz watercolor pencils entirely on this page and nothing else. I'm really glad that I could do this sort of effect, this sort of like shimmering effect only with one set of pencils. So just wait a little bit and I will be back with more coloring book. So, hi guys. So these are the ones that are left. It is Måla för dina sinnen with I think her name is Alexandra Alexandersson. She did the illustrations in this book, and this first one I did with I think I did this with Staedtler's fine liners, and I also did it with Staedtler's regular sized, the regularized Tri Plus. Same here, I think. Yeah, Staedtler Tri Plus markers. Here I started to get more and more into watercolor and watercolor pencils. I think this is one of the first coloring books I actually got, and yeah, I was trying out on these flowers and berries how you can do you know, this sort of shiny effect to them, and sort of blend them a little bit to make different colors. Here I only used Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz watercolor pencils, and the same thing here. Here I sort of started to realize I could use achieve different types of effects. Here I used also Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz watercolor pencils, and this is still a work in progress. Also Mondeluz watercolor pencils. This one was the first one I was actually proud of doing. So this one was Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz watercolor pencils. This one I did with the Staedtler's fine liners. This one I did with the brand that I was talking about, of colored pencil that I actually had that was on brand, and I absolutely hated them because they were absolutely rubbish. So yeah, so this is my first try with colored pencils. And this one I used with Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz watercolor pencils. I really like how I did manage to do the effect of the moon shining on this, what are they called, like wood goose in English, and yeah, I really like how this turned out, despite despite me being a noob at the time at coloring. And this one I did with Koh-i-Noor, no, of course not. This one I did with the Staedtler's Tri Plus markers and the fine liners, and I didn't like how it turned out, so I just stopped completely working on this, and I guess I stopped working in this book, even though there are so many pictures that I want to do. Oh yeah, I did this one. I totally forgot about this one. This one I did with Koh-i-Noor watercolor pencils. I do like this book a lot. And then we have Anamorphia, the postcard version. I have a few in here, even though I usually send out postcards that I do color. This one I did with Mondeluz watercolor pencils. Starting to see a theme on what things I used to use and still am using. This one I did for a challenge, a neon challenge on Facebook. So I used only Staedtler Tri Plus fine liners. Actually did the neon on the back as well. Here I used my watercolor pencils, Koh-i-Noor watercolor pencils, and I didn't like the background, so I did this acrylic wash on the back, and it's a little bit sticky, so some of the residue of the acrylic paint have sort of stuck onto the other side. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to finish this or not. Here I started with some fine liners, Staedtler's fine liners, and never completed it. This was sort of a failed experiment of mine, and I wanted to do a watercolor scene on these wolves with the help of water that I colored with the help of different pH values. So you have, if you boil red cabbage, that sort of juice that comes out of it is very reactive to different pH levels, and people use that as a pH indicator if they don't have a pH indicator machine. So you can use stuff like stuff like lemon to make it more of a purplish color, and you can use something more alkaline to get more of a pinkish color. And so that is what I tried, and it sort of worked, except for the fact that I think this paper have acid in it. It would have worked if this paper was acid free, but because I think they have used some sort of acid in the process, it got extremely blotchy. And then I just cover it up with Koh-i-Noor Mondeluz watercolor pencils and use that. But that was a thing I wanted to try out, and it didn't end so well, so I had to sort of mark it up. And yeah, and I have some big markers in the background, the metallic ones. I think this is the last one in this. Yeah. And lastly, we have some few things that I've been let's see. Oh yeah, so we have two from Kawaii Girls by Jade Summers. I did purchase the PDF file, and then I rebooted my computer and I can't seem to find the PDF file anywhere. So I have no idea where it went. So I was going to buy a physical copy of it anyway, but you know. So this one I did with Shalene. We had a body color, and I used, yeah, I think I used my classic Faber-Castell classic color pencils on this one, and I used some white gel pen as well for some of the details. And this one I think I got my polychromos, and I wanted to give her a darker skin tone, and this was for a color along that A Colorful Life had, and she wanted to celebrate diversity, so I colored this picture of this Native American, and I was really unsure how to do her skin tone, but I think it ended up fine anyway. And yeah, that's it. That is everything I've colored these past, what can it be, almost 3 years now. I hope you guys have liked this, even though I've been fairly blunt and, you know, trying to wrap this up as much as possible. But once you see the scope of how much I actually colored, I hope you guys understand on why I wanted to sort of, you know, be a bit hasty about it. I've been sort of talking almost straight for almost 2 hours now. And yeah, I hope you guys like this. So like the videos if you like them. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!